Hello, everyone. This is producer Michael here with a quick disclaimer at the start of this episode. The first one is obviously there will be a lot of spoilers for 007 First Light. So, big spoiler warning if you haven't played the game yet and don't want to hear anything about it. This isn't the podcast for you. 100% don't listen to it. Plug your ears. Move on to the next episode. Also, another quick disclaimer. Some of the audio in this isn't as I would have liked. There was a kind of miking issue from myself. I was too busy worrying about how other people sounded. I forgot to turn on my own microphone. So I sound a bit worse for wear. And Rory's audio is quite low. But look, these things happen. I think you will enjoy the podcast regardless. So sit back and enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to James Bond Club Ireland with a very special event this time, a very special episode. We have our deep dive into First Light. Yes, a lot of you have been waiting for this. This is going to be a really detailed look at the game that everybody has been talking about. It's been a huge hit. It's a return of 007. It's big for us because, of course, we have an Irish James Bond, which we're very excited about in Paddy Gibson. And to talk about it today, we have not only four of the greatest Bond fans that I know, five, including myself, but also people who played the game, people who love gaming, people who know this world inside out far better than I do, certainly. And we're going to go and get their expertise, their insights, and of course, their perspectives as Bond fans as well. So you know me, I'm Paul. You know Sean. Say hi, Sean.
Hello, everybody. How are we all doing?
And Michael, of course, is stepping out of his producer's role today and into producer slash, MC, because he is a prominent gamer and will be driving the conversation. But we have two extremely special guests. Rory Emery, who you may know if you've seen our episode on the Moment posters. Rory, say hi.
Hi, everyone.
How's it going? And
Well,
my OG Bezzy mate from the world of Bond, the very lovely David West. Hello, David.
What an introduction. Thank you, Paul. Hello.
Welcome. So listen, guys, before we get into it, let's do a quick introduction, talk about, why you're a Bond fan, why you're a gaming fan, what you were attracted to about this game, what you thought of it so far in like a, real quick one or two liners. So we just get to know you and what your thoughts on the game were. Rory, we've met you before, so for the sake of familiarity, jump in, give us a quick overview of what you thought of the game so far.
I absolutely loved it, and I grew up with Agent Under Fire, Nightfire, Everything or Nothing, and they were a huge part of my childhood, as Pierce Brosnan was for David as well. I loved it. I was ecstatic with it. It was great.
Yeah. This is good. This is definitely a browse-friendly environment that I'm in right now. And of course, you guys are all part of the GoldenEye generation. So this is a real testament to this game. This has a high bar to live up to. So it'll be interesting to see what you thought of that. David, tell us about you. Tell us who you are and where you come from.
My name is David West. I am from Scotland, Bonnie, Scotland. I lived in London for about 6 years, and I've been a Bond fan my whole life. But when I was living in London, that's where I stretched and earned some of my Bond fan credentials. I ended up working at Bond in Motion as a tour guide, and ended up doing James Bond tours with Brit Movie Tours as well. So it kind of became my job to be a Bond expert for a little while as well. So those were the glory years. So and like Rory, I am from the GoldenEye generation. So the games really meant a lot to me growing up, and it's so good that we're back with a brand new game of the caliber of First Light, which I'm excited to get stuck into.
See, that's the kind of that it's listening to that kind of stuff that just makes me want to hang out with David West and talk Bond more. I mean, that kind of enthusiasm was completely infectious. And I promise not to put you on the spot, but anybody who knows David knows that he has the world's best Timothy Dalton and Pierce Brosnan impressions, respectively. I'm just putting that out there, right? Save that. If you meet him at a party, you can tap him on the shoulder for it. But he's not gonna do it now. Okay, so to take it away and take us into the episode and to lead off is Michael. Michael, off you go.
Thanks for handing over the reins of the podcast for this very special episode of 007 First Light Spoilers. And again, this is my first time meeting Rory and David, but as kind of I've been told by Paul, you're generally gamers anyway, besides Bond. Is that right? So like I'll go to Rory first. Rory, like besides the Bond games and maybe including the Bond games as well, what sort of games do you like? What's your kind of history with gaming?
I love the Resident Evil games. Recently, I love all the remakes they've done there. I love really campaign games, old school, rather than the more modern online things like that. Hitman. I loved their previous games before they did Bond, so I was very excited for them to do that. And then if we're going back even further, Jack and Daxter, things like that, when I was growing up.
Yeah, no, those games are kind of legendary on the PlayStation, PS1, kind of PS2. David, what about you? What did you play, or was it just Bond for you?
God, I've spent my whole life for someone waiting to ask me this question, and no one does. So I'm ready. My favorite game of all time was the first game I ever completed when I was a very young man. Was Donkey Kong Country 2: Diddy's Conquest on the SNES. Phenomenal game, phenomenal soundtrack. I go back and play it probably at least once a year. Banjo-Kazooie as well on the 64. That's a classic. So these are all Rare games as well. So Rare made GoldenEye as well. So they were like the Pixar of gaming back in the 90s. They just made classic after classic. Grand Theft Auto Vice City as well. That's a classic as well. Absolutely love the 80s atmosphere. I love the soundtrack. And I'm a big Nintendo fan as well. So if I have friends over, Mario Kart is always good to play. Mario Party.
Who's your main in Mario Kart?
Donkey Kong maybe.
Donkey Kong's a good
or Luigi. It changes. I'm not too fussy. I used to be a Luigi loyalist for the longest time, so my friends would always pick Luigi just to throw me off. So whenever we played,
I'd be incredibly fussy now.
Yeah, I'd always run off the side because I always thought it was Luigi, and I'm like, no.
Exactly. But you know, like Nintendo is really cool, and I suppose like nowadays you have a lot of games on the Switch which are like considered some of the best games of all time. You have like your Zelda games and stuff. So Nintendo looks to be kind of a lot of people love Nintendo at the moment. Sean, what about you? Oh no, go on, David. You continue.
Sorry, I was just going to say I've been a Nintendo loyalist pretty much my whole life, so I kind of feel like I was punished for being a Nintendo fan when they delayed First Light on the Nintendo Switch. So I ended up having to go rogue and get a PlayStation. So there we go.
I think that's something you have in common with Kev. Kev is still waiting to play the game on the Switch.
Poor guy.
So he's waiting. Sean, what about you? What's your kind of history of gaming, or was it just purely I'll only play Bond games that interest me?
No, I haven't played. I used to be a gaming all the time, but it was the last maybe 10, 15 years I haven't been playing gaming at all. I would have been your GoldenEye. I loved F1 it would have been N64, and then I moved on to like Medal of Honor, Call of Duty, them types of games. So yeah, it's been a long time since I've been playing sort of proper gaming. So I had to steal the PlayStation 5 off my son for a couple of nights to play the computer game. Yeah, so
being a grown-up sucks, doesn't it, Sean?
Yeah, but really excited to get back into gaming and playing that type of game again.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. So
yeah,
Rory, you mentioned that like you liked the Hitman games even before it was announced that Bond was going to be, made by IO Interactive. What were like your expectations for the game, even because the game was announced like years ago before we even knew anything? It was always kind of touted as Project 007. Like, have you any expectations for what you wanted the game to be like, or what you wanted out of it?
I mean, I'll be honest, because I like the campaign. I always get confused. Is it first or third person where you can see the whole?
That'd be third.
Third person. So I always loved third person. And I just thought if it was as good as Bloodstone or better, which I quite enjoyed, I didn't love, but I enjoyed it. I was happy with that. I just wanted more Bond games. I couldn't have 007 Legends being the last of the Bond games. You know, I was excited for, you know. Yeah. I'm gonna shut this window. Sorry, guys. 2 seconds.
I'd love to know what cars are outside. Like,
Because it feels like you're in your own game at the moment, like with car
Yeah.
chases and whatnot going on outside.
unbelievable.
Poor
He's
Rory, it's
recording
going to
from the
boil
pit
like
stop
an
of
onion.
Yeah.
Someone's going to
Anyway,
hand
just
in the
pick
Wimpies
up
now.
where you left off, and I'll find an edit point anyway.
Yeah, so no, I was just open to anything really because it's been so long since we've had a Bond game, and I did find the last one very disappointing, like many people did. But yeah, just growing up, I wanted something fresh, not based on a film, and we got exactly that. And it was better than I could have imagined.
What about you, David? What were your expectations going into 007 First Light?
Well, I hadn't actually played the Hitman games until IOI was announced as the developers for the new Bond game. So that's when I ended up checking it out. And as soon as I did, I was like, oh, this is perfect. It's so good. I remember because, was it Hitman 3? It was the first game I played where you kind of, the first level is you skydiving onto this skyscraper. You get onto the skyscraper, you take off your skydiving equipment, and you've got a nice freshly pressed suit underneath, and you turn up to this swanky party. And I'm like, oh, this is Bond. It's perfect. So I was so excited for IOI to get the license.
Yeah, no, they kind of are really just the complete perfect studio nearly to do a Bond game. Sean, what about you? Did you play any of the Hitman games after learning, or just knowing you probably just said, no, I'm just going to wait for First Light?
No, yeah. I was just going to wait for the game. I got really excited whenever Indiana Jones brought out the computer game, and I played a bit of it, so it sort of got me back into the way of playing games again. But a bit like Rory, I was definitely a first-person shooter. All the games I would have played, so it did take me a bit of time to get used to the third-person view again. But really excited that a Bond game is finally coming out again, because I always say it's a massive market that I think they need to tap into more, and I think with this game they definitely have, and long may it continue.
Yeah, no, 100%. And like, one of the things I love about the game is that it kind of leads you straight into the idea that's going to be not an origin story, but kind of an origin story at the same time, where it's Bond getting his 00 essentially. And the pre-title mission, you can call it, instead of pre-title sequence, takes place in Iceland, and Bond is caught up in, we'll say, some MI6 business. What did you think of the first mission? Because it really is Bond as we've never really seen him before in any of the movies. It is a very young Bond. He isn't in the Secret Service whatsoever, doesn't know anything about MI6, and it's kind of a completely new environment for him. David, what did you think of the first mission as a whole, as an introduction to Bond, and even like an introduction to the gameplay?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting from a narrative perspective. It opens up as a stealth kind of tutorial, which is fair, because you have crash landed in the water and you're out of your depth trying to avoid guards, and you're freezing, so you got to get a jacket and get warm. It was a really dark way to open up a game as well. Tonally dark as well. But you really do feel like the gravity of the situation when you're getting through to comms, and then like MI6 patches through, and you're talking to a voice which you later realize is Moneypenny. So that's it was a really good way to throw you in as well. The game doesn't open with the gun barrel like the Daniel Craig era, but they do have a little twist on it, which I really enjoy. That opens with the white dots coming across the screen, and the white dots open up on the helicopter. Did you guys appreciate that as well?
Loved it.
100%. I thought it worked. I thought that worked really well. Rory, like, as someone who was waiting for a Bond game for that long, what were like the emotions you were feeling during that first mission?
I actually really, looking at the game, and I absolutely love the game. I was slightly worried by the first mission, just because it felt a little bit more like it could be going Call of Duty. It could be a little bit of a different kind of, and the fact that he was a young Bond as well, and all of these things. I suddenly had all the worst fears, thinking, oh, is this going to, have the classic Bond moments? Is it going to? And obviously, I was completely, wrong in that. But for me, it was sort of after the credits when I started to really love the game, and I sort of changed my opinion. I thought, this is brilliant. I still loved it, but it didn't feel necessarily Bond to me until slightly further on.
I think that's actually a very good point, because it doesn't feel. It took me a while, and I'd say even beyond the credit sequence and into maybe a few missions, it really started to feel like Bond. I think kind of further into the game you got. The opening, it reminded me. Well, we'll get onto this later because it was beyond the pre-credits. When he does when he's in Malta, essentially doing the training, it reminded me a lot of Kingsman. And I mentioned that to the lads before, but it reminded me a lot of Kingsman. But Sean, like, as someone who isn't used to gaming in the current generation, do you think the first level was a good tutorial?
Yes. I would definitely say that. I found it very useful for getting into how to play the game, and even just getting Bond's inner monologue a bit sort of reminded me very much of, oh, right, they really took care, to try and get this character, establish the character. But I loved it because it got you into the way of having to work stealth, and there's certain objectives you had to do in order to get, as Dave was saying, you had to get a coat, you had to then sort of scope out and eventually rescue sort of civilians as well. I thought it was very well done, and probably to Rory's point, I'm coming from a like an older sort of Medal of Honor, Call of Duty background, so I didn't mind that per se as such. But even just the look of the game is unbelievable. Sort of it's cinematic type quality, and it's so well done. It for me, it really set the tone. For the first time, probably I'm going to say since probably Everything or Nothing, playing the game, you felt like you were James Bond, which is something I never thought I would probably ever say again. But yeah, it just got me real into sort of back into gaming in terms of James Bond. And I thought it was excellent. I thought it was a great way to open it up. I was surprised how they opened it up, to be honest with you. It was sort of full on action in terms of, is this the way the game's going? And I had read different things about, it's going to be a lot more stealth, and I had read up a bit about the Hitman games and stuff, but I loved the opening. Yeah, that was excellent. And it sort of established the character for me slightly, that it made it all the more worthwhile when you become the 00, you go into the MI6 building, you start meeting Q, Moneypenny. It just set the character off for me. That was excellent.
And then again,
from what I've seen of it as well, sorry, Michael, just what I'm seeing of it, I wanted to add that the bit where they're in the helicopter at the start is really, really sets a sense of suspense and tension, and also moodiness. That the color that they have, it looks cold and it looks kind of tense. I was like, ooh, this is exciting. But I agree with you. It sort of did feel Bond, but then also didn't. So yeah, it was cool. It was really, it's the kind of thing that was like immediately like, this is making me want to buy a PS5 kind of thing. I'm excited already. And,
do it.
I think I was going to ask you as well, Paul,
my pennies.
Because you're the only one here who hasn't played the game, and everything you would have seen would have been through
YouTube and stuff like that.
People, YouTube and people playing the game and watching other people review the game and stuff.
Yeah.
How do you feel about doing that and not being able to play the game? Is it like a frustrating thing for you of like,
well, I wanted to actually have it just through sheer screwing up timings. I don't have a PS5 yet. I was hoping to get one when it came out, but it's very enjoyable to watch it because I feel like as a I haven't played games in years. I mean, when David said Donkey Kong, I was like, yeah, I used to play on that. And I used to play it on a console that I bet none of you have ever heard of, one of these real old ones. And I did play some of the GoldenEye stuff in the later and Quantum of Solace, but I was terrible at it. So I was like, okay, I'll try something else. But this one has really made me want to get back into it because it's so story driven, and the way they have recreated the Moneypenny and M and some of the supporting characters around it are so. I was really, really impressed with what I saw and heard. You know, the relationship with Moneypenny is particularly interesting, I found, because she's not taking any guff from Bond. Like, she's pushing him kind of hard in certain aspects, and the dialogue between them was I thought really, really interesting. So it made me. It was like, oh, this is more than just, you know, trying to get out of corner and shoot someone and pick out stuff up. This is really, really an interesting story. And it just made me excited. It made me excited to go beyond my comfort zone and just get back into gaming a little bit, you know, which
No,
I'm
absolutely.
excited to do now.
Yeah, no, because it's one of those things. I wonder how many people. You mentioned, David, that you went out of your way to get a console to play this because it didn't come out on the Nintendo straight away. But even Sean, like, as someone who didn't play it, like, and the game went further in, and it maybe got a bit harder, or new stuff kind of started popping up. Like, what were your favorite missions in the game? Kind of the further you went into it, or even like at the start, were some of your favorite missions at the start? Like, what sequences stood out to you?
Definitely, it took me a while to get used to the training. I didn't think the training sort of would have took so long, in terms of it was near like its own mission. They had to get through that. A lot of the other games I would have played, it's a quick tutorial, a quick button A does this, you hit shoot, do this, you aim for that there, and oh, we're off. But this one here, it sort of took a lot longer. But it probably still be in good stead, because like I just wanted to get a gun and start shooting. Like, you know, I'm just used to playing games like that, so you had to be a lot more, you know, work your way around a mission. Stealth was a big thing. Like, even just walking around rooms and investigating sort of different sort of elements, you had to pick stuff up and it'd give you clues. It took me a wee while just to get used to that, but for me, playing the game, it's the mission where you go where Bond is the chauffeur, and then you go into that whole hotel. That whole mission was amazing. I was engrossed in that mission, and there was one or two times that I got stuck somewhere, but it didn't take you too long to find your way around it again. But there was that mission, and I also found when Bond goes back to his house in the shootout at his house, we have to escape and then do a rooftop chase. I thought that was amazing. We were running after the sniper and different things. There's things like that. It's pure Bond for me. It could have been another character, but it's just you're playing Bond. And then I actually found the last few missions. Well, a very quick shout out to, at the end of that hotel mission, you end up at an airport and you have to board a plane, and then you end up the plane explodes. And there was a part where I was waiting for a Moonraker moment, and it happened, where you have to go after somebody and get their parachute. It's just fucking class. I just love that there. The amount of stuff they have done linking this to Bond is unreal. And you just appreciate how much care and attention they've given this game. Because, like, no matter what mission you're in, there's a name will come up. Like, at one point, it's St. John Smythe and all this here. It's just so good. It's just so good. The amount of links to the old Bond novels and films is amazing. I did find, coming to the later missions, I found them a lot harder, but I also found that it got a lot more futuristic, which I was surprised at. But again, it's probably the world that we're in, and yeah, I enjoyed it. But that hotel mission was brilliant. I loved that mission.
What about you,
But it's
David?
it's all science facts, Sean.
All science facts.
That's all we do. Yeah.
I imagine IO Interactive on their office doors, they had, it's not science fiction, it's science fact plastered on the like a motto to stick to. What about you, David? What mission stood out to you?
My favorite mission has to be is it Time to Die, the one that's set in Vietnam. I think we've mentioned a few times that the game does a really good job of, it slowly starts to feel like a Bond game as it goes on. It kind of, you do feel like you're a recruit. You don't know where you are in the world. You really feel the character. And then as soon as the MI6 team is introduced, I remember after the titles, we're wondering about MI6. You go, oh, it says Universal Exports on the wall. Oh my god! And then you see the padded door at M's office. Oh, it's a padded door. Oh my goodness! And then Fleming fans as well, because the roles of Moneypenny and Q, they've updated them and changed them a bit and got their own spin on them. So M's secretary is now Louisa Ponsonby, which as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, that's so cool. But it's interesting that the game has the confidence to do that. They're not just doing an impression of the film, and that goes to Patrick Gibson's performance as Bond. at no point was I watching going, he's doing a Pierce Brosnan, he's doing a Roger Moore or anything like that. He's got his own spin on the character, and same with all the MI6 regulars. Q has got an entirely a different relationship to Bond in this game that he's ever had in any other medium, film or book or game. He's more like a father figure, and he's like the debonair one who like introduces Bond to the stylish world and the finer things in life, which is really nice. And M's a
That's
lot
amazing.
younger
It's
as
almost
well.
like Terrence Young as Q in that sense. I
Yes,
guess.
absolutely, yeah. So it's good that the medium of gaming has like changed so much since that Bond game was last out, and it's grown, and it's got its own respect as to do that. And they don't have to like imitate the films. They've got the confidence to branch out and do their own thing, and it works really, really well. But yeah, Time to Die was one of the first missions. It's quite later in the game, but it really does feel like, yeah, I'm Bond.
That was
You're
the one I was
walking
gonna say as
around.
well,
You're
yeah.
like, you're being smooth. You're at this luxurious resort. And you're womanizing as well, which is great. You end up chatting up some girl, and which is it just, you really feel like you're James Bond, and you're using your gadgets, and you're being smooth and charming, and then when the action starts, it's so good. There's a section, yeah, we've all played it except Paul. Cover your ears, Paul. There's a section during the quarry shootout when the On Her Majesty's Secret Service tune starts playing. My wife happened to be there, and she like started filming my reaction because I was playing, going, "Oh my god!" I was so happy. I had the biggest grin on my face. But yeah, absolutely, 10 out of 10. That level, it's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I was going to say, if no one else was going to say it, I was going to say the Vietnam level. And what I love about it is it essentially, and I think all the levels do this as well, they all kind of start from a base and build up.
Yes.
So you'll start from like, you go to a place and then you have to kind of do all the stealthy stuff first, and then it will escalate and escalate until the big moment happens. And like at the end of that, the big moment is when the Majesty's theme plays. I was going to ask everyone about that, like as a separate question later on in the podcast, because it is one of those things I know in No Time to Die, it's a bit of a weird topic for people. A lot of people don't like it being in there. Some people do. I was wondering like how that in the game, how do people feel about that being there? Rory, what about you? Like, is there anything, what missions in the game really stood out to you in terms of like, this is what I was waiting for?
Well, I agree with you guys. That was my favorite mission too. But the minute I knew that I was in for honestly one of the best games I've ever played was when it was the training scene and it became a montage. So you'd suddenly be in the car, then you'd be in a punch up, and then you'd be, and I just thought that was masterfully done. Like because those are the scenes that if you play a lot of games, you just dread because you think, oh, it's all going to slow down here. It's going to become really, but they just kept it energized. I just couldn't believe getting back in the Aston, punch up, go and catch a flag, whatever it was great. I loved it. I thought the desert sequence was amazing as well, and the shoot up towards the last half of that. I thought David Arnold's score, talking about On Her Majesty's and things like that, was just so good. I think he did an incredible job, and it felt like those Pierce Brosnan games where it's not a shame to be blasting the Bond theme in these big moments, which I loved. And the bit where you're in that dump, dump truck, rubbish truck, when you're just driving.
The bin lorry.
I thought that was great.
So that was really cool, yeah. Like when you go through them, I think there's some missions are better than others, but like the Vietnam one for me really stood out. I think when they go to Adelphi and essentially Bond, they have to get into the auction. So it's like, well, you have to go make a shitload of money now, Bond. So you have to find all these different ways, and the interesting thing is like there's no set route to do it. It's like you could have gone to a bunch of different places to try get the money and get the crypto and stuff, and that was I thought really interesting. Is there anything kind of gameplay wise, purely forgetting about the story and just the mechanics of the game, that you either really loved or really didn't like? David, what about you? Is there anything that kind of stood out as like, oh man, this is really fun to do, like the gunfights or whatever, or was there anything you found frustrating? And whenever that turned up, you were like, oh god damn.
No, I mean, when I first heard, when the build up to the hype of the game, people were talking about how sophisticated the combat was, and I don't know, it can be a bit intimidating to hear about that. It's like, oh, I've got to remember different button combinations and stuff like that. But it's so amazing how organic the combat feels. It just feels like when you're out of bullets, you throw your gun at someone, and it's like you're just panicking. You're like, I've got to survive. You're just grabbing things from all over the place. You're grabbing a glass. At one point, you grab a keyboard from a computer and smash it at someone as well. And it feels really good. But just overall, I think the pacing of the game and the variety is incredible. I think the negativity I've heard, the few negativity, the negative criticisms I've heard, it all circles around like how linear the game is, and there are some people who are expecting it to be a bit more open, like Hitman, and there are some levels like that, but it is a strength of the game, I think, that because I think with Hitman, when you play it, it requires a lot of patience. You got to be like memorizing routes and stuff like that, and there's like so many options that when you finish the level, you see all the different options you could have done and how you could have completed the game. And then as a completionist, I'm like, oh, I missed out on so much, which is great, but it can also be a bit overwhelming as well. But what Hitman doesn't really give you, it's very satisfying when you can do it really well, but there's never that like cathartic like outburst of action. It's like if you're playing Hitman right, you're going in and going out and no one knows you've been there. But with Bond, you do get that sneakiness and stuff, but then it all kind of, you get that release of action afterwards. So I think the pacing is phenomenal in that sense.
Would you also like mentioning the Hitman games? And it's just actually, even when you're just, I think, even moving the character, you can tell it's from the same developers as Hitman. They move the same way, it feels the same on the controller. But another thing I found that like I was kind of wanting out of the game was, do you know in the Hitman games when you can put on different disguises, but you can drag bodies and put them in, like put them away essentially and hide them?
Yeah.
I was really wanting to do that in the game, because you take out someone and then just be lying there and you're like, well, I can't move them now. They're just stuck there. So I know some of my kind of Hitman muscle memory came back, and I was like, oh, I wish I could do that, you know. What about you, Rory? Like, what aspects of the game, gameplay wise, did you like or didn't like?
So I just think that it reminded me of an old school game, which is exactly what I wanted. I didn't want anything online. I didn't want anything too, the fact that it's basically just an old school campaign is just amazing to me, because what you were saying about the missions, I love the fact that it's kind of guided and it's not completely open world, because I just don't think it would make sense in this sort of story focused game. And I also thought the gadgets were done really tastefully as well. They were never boring, because sometimes things like that can get a bit gimmicky and can get a little bit which one's what. I remember in some of the old ones when you have to use your laser and stuff, I sort of forgot what to do. And but I think in this one it was just really, really well done.
Was there any part of the game that really frustrated you, as in like you got stuck on? Because there's a few bits in this game where I was kind of there for a good, probably a lot longer than the game intended, and I'm just walking around. The one that stands out to me was when they go to the villain's kind of base in the Arctic, and you have to go get like a key card from behind a desk, but there's a few people there, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to do this until I figured out. Then I was like, about 20 minutes later, I was walked up and I was like, oh, there's a grass section behind it. And it's just, I kept trying to do it the one way of like, there surely is, and he kept trying to do it, but it didn't really work. What about you, Sean? Was there parts of the game you were stuck and kind of,
There
did
was,
it frustrate you, or was it a kind of thing when you overcame the challenge, did you find it like rewarding?
Yeah, literally, you hit the nail on the head there with the Antarctic scene. I got held up a number of times. There was one point where the robots kept coming at you because you had to release this ball and use your watch and power up and break windows and all. I kept getting killed every time. I was going, this is going to drive me around the bend. But when you sort of took a wee step back and you realize, right, this is how you sort of maneuver the ball around, and the ball will actually kill all the robots, and then you can smash away of it. So yeah, it was probably rewarding that way. It just took me a long time just to get used to the third person view, I have to be honest. But I did find the more you get into the game, obviously you're going to get more used to it. I did like the fighting scenes, but I also loved a bit of a release when the license to kill mode would kick in. I just loved that there because you're able to shoot. But then you only had 6 bullets or 13 bullets at a time. You need to pick up another gun or got to fight somebody to get their gun. I did love that, but it was always a nice relief when situation contained. I think it kept coming up when it went green and going, oh, thank God there's no other men coming here. Let's keep fighting them. So yeah, I did like that, but I definitely the later missions, obviously it gets harder as the game goes on, but there was a few times where I was getting frustrated at it, but I actually found walking away for 10, 15 minutes and then coming back just give you a bit of a fresh perspective. For weirdly, I know it makes sense, but at the time when you're so engrossed in the game, you're going, how am I getting killed here? What is going on? But yeah, it was definitely a reward at the end when you did get past that. So yeah, I actually said when you're talking about gameplay, and that wasn't probably a big thing for me because as I say, I haven't been gaming in a long time. I loved the whole like a movie feel to it in terms of a cutscene explains something, you move into a mission, you have another cutscene. I thought they were so well done. It was brilliant in terms of it just gives the like a bit of a sort of luxury feel in terms of the game, in terms of what Bond is all about. And again, probably more for us Bond fans is the touches of the Bond elements in it, and even just like the sort of the watch he's wearing, the Omega, the clothes he's wearing, the cars. It was just a nice touch. It just gave a cinematic touch. I loved that there. It's sort of parts which you felt sure if you're watching a movie at times. So yeah, I thought that was brilliant the way they done that.
Can I just say, there's one thing I remembered that I absolutely loved. It was the fact that they did the Daniel Craig Skyfall gun kick from the floor.
Yes.
You know, I loved it. Sorry.
Excellent. And I think that kind of raises
brilliant,
an
yeah.
interesting question in general of how does this game, or has this game changed your view of Bond? Not just the character, but the story kind of in general, or the franchise in general. Does this game kind of maybe open your eyes to a different aspect of Bond because it is more of an origin story? And the way I was thinking of it was you have characters like Moneypenny, who traditionally, and I think a lot of if in the new Bond film Moneypenny turns up and she's just the secretary for M, I think a lot of old school fans will be very, yep, brilliant, that's what we want. We want Bond to walk into the office and have the banter at Moneypenny, and that's the last you see of her. And they want it to be all very kind of traditional. But this game, I think, kind of leads on maybe from the Daniel Craig movies and poses kind of the evolution of Moneypenny's character, of that she's no longer M secretary, she's an MI6 handler. And that is kind of almost her new role. And people who are playing this game and don't really have much love for the Bond franchise might look at Moneypenny's character now and be like, oh, she's just kind of one of the MI6 handlers. That's her job now. And they won't have the connection that essentially a lot of kind of old school fans would have to her being the secretary. So has this game in any way changed or kind of differed your understanding of what Bond can be? I'll throw that out to Paul, actually, because as someone who's kind of watching the game, is there anything in this game you saw that you thought okay, that kind of actually raises a really interesting question about Bond, and going forward, does it change how you kind of feel about the franchise even?
There's a few questions in there, I would say. I mean, for the diehards who really, are gonna die on the hill of the relationships must be the same and it must be exactly as written in the early movies or whatever. I mean, they may like it, they may not. I think most people are kind of conscious that characters evolve and stuff like that. The newer generation coming in, seeing this game and then going backwards, wait until they get to see Penelope Smallbone. They'll be like, whoa, this is not what? So that's going to be funny. But I think if it's done well, personally, I'm not a purist. I like to see the evolution of characters in this way. And I did think that although there was, well, from what I'd seen, there wasn't so much flirting with Moneypenny as she was kind of being strict with Bond, guiding him sort of with the understanding that he seemed to be a bit of a renegade character, a bit of a maverick, but he was absolutely tenacious, narrow-mindedly focused on doing the right thing, compelled by his duty. These are all things that are built into Bond's character, his sense of who he is, his sense of masculinity, his sense of duty as an agent. And I thought it was a really clever way of looking at that from a slightly different perspective from an established character. So I really liked the notion of it. Maybe others won't. But as to how people will see it in the future, you know, a friend of ours always says, you know, how many Bond fans does it take to change a light bulb? 100. 1 to change the bulb and 99 to say it's not the same as the previous one. So you're always going to get the sort of, I don't like it. I don't like it. I think most people, I think the big thing here is trying to convert people who aren't gamers necessarily, but are cinema fans over the line and try and get into gaming. You know, I think that's the thing. And I think it might be an easier jump to get people who are already gamers to go into, hey, you know, actually this character is in the cinema. So that's hopefully what will have a similar effect like we had in GoldenEye, is to be. Although we did discover recently, David, that in fact the average age of gamers these days is actually higher than you might imagine, according to the internet.
Yeah,
it's
even grown-ups like us play games.
Even grown-ups, yeah, because you were the gaming crazed generation, but you're all grown up now, married with responsibilities and whatnot. So, but it'd be interesting. It'll be interesting to see the impact that this game has on Bond fandom generally. And I think it's actually an exciting time to be a Bond fan in the way that, you know, this obviously started off as a Neon project, but is now under the you know, the wings, let's say, of IO. But obviously there will be some kind of relationship between Amazon MGM and IO as well, and how they develop going forward. But I think maybe if there's a more of an openness to do more Bond projects that are slightly different, like the question remains now with Paddy Gibson in this role as the Bond that he has created with IO. You know, it's unlikely, I would suggest that the Stephen Knight, Denis Villeneuve Bond will mirror that. They will probably have an entirely separate Bond, and I'm just going to guess that it will be a different actor as well. So it's quite probable that we will have 2 separate Bond types of things going on. And it's not like before. This is a really major game out here. So you've got one major James Bond thing, and then there'll be another one running concurrently. So I don't know if we've really had that before. So I think we're in an evolving period for how a Bond, I don't want to say universe because it sounds like I know what I'm talking about, but you know, the various collections of Bond things are going to work out. That's the exciting part for me, because if they're all done as well as this game, I think, you know, we're in for another golden age of Bond fandom, I would say. So that's my optimistic foot forward on that one. Don't know if that answered your question, Michael, but that's how I feel, though.
No, love to hear the optimism. David, you were going to say something kind of.
I think we are kind of feeling that already. I think having this game and the film series being both strong enough to be independent of each other, I think it's a good thing for the Bond brand as well. And I've been seeing a lot of videos popping up on my YouTube algorithm of people watching Casino Royale for the first time, and they're going like, and it was like, oh, I've just completed the new Bond game, and I wanted to check out what the film series is about. So it's happening, which is so good to see. And I think we've been missing that, because when I was a kid and when me and Rory were youngsters, as a teenager, being Bond was like the coolest thing ever. It was like the games would be coming out like every year, like clockwork.
Yeah,
films would be coming out and stuff as well, and there was all sorts of merchandise and stuff like that. But I think as much as I've enjoyed the Daniel Craig films, they have been aiming for like a older audience, which is by design. That's what they've chose to do. But it's going to be interesting going forward, seeing what kind of audiences will be picked up with these totally different takes on Bond.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And another thing I kind of wanted to jump on was that recently, in the kind of the last week or two, they released what's kind of like the roadmap for the first year of content post launch date. So they're really including stuff in the tax sim. There's going to be a few like new mission with Lenny Kravitz's character. How much replayability do you think is in the game? Because obviously the tax sim is there, and there's a bunch.
Can you just give a quick explainer on tax sim? I know we touched on it the previous one, but just for the noobs.
For you, Paul, you want to know what the tax sim is.
For me, yeah.
The tax sim it's essentially I think what's the name of the actress who is it? Gemma Chan.
Yeah.
So essentially she has a character, and you just kind of go into this room where you can play out tactical simulations of different missions. So they give you different objectives. So there's no real story to it. It is you just go in with your equipment and your gadgets, and they give you a few objectives, and you try to complete them. And the faster you do it, or the quicker you complete the objectives and stuff, you can get like more points, and that puts you on like a worldwide leaderboard and stuff. And there's a lot of different stuff to it. So again, kind of with the idea of replayability in mind, Rory, do you think this is going to be a game you're going to be delving into the tax sim and trying to do as much as you can, or is it once the story was completed, you're like, cool, I can leave it be now for a while, might go back and play it again? But how does that kind of sit for you?
So I see why they did the tax sim, and I think it's interesting, but I've actually just found that I've gone back and replayed levels quite a bit. And that's just sort of kept me entertained rather than the tax sim itself. But I think the tax sim idea is kind of bridging the gap between new gamers and old gamers, because a good friend of mine who's very much into games, but he's never played any of the Pierce Brosnan PS2 games or anything like that. The idea of him doing a campaign is something a bit alien to him, and he enjoyed it. But he actually said to me the tax sim he absolutely loved. So I think it's just maybe just for people who aren't so into the campaign and things, and the story cinema will probably get more enjoyment from that.
No, absolutely. And like the tax sim, I think is definitely, you bring up a really good point about like new gamers versus old gamers, because I think new gamers, the way it is now is that maybe if you're not really into the story aspect, you do like the almost competitive aspect of it. And the whole idea with the tax sim is like the better you do it, the more points you get. You can go on leaderboards, and you essentially are going up against people in that sense. You're not actually physically going up against them, but like your results are almost. What about you, David? Is the tax sim something you're going to grind out now because you said you're a completionist, or is it going to be a thing you maybe just dip in and out of every now and again?
Yeah, I've been playing the tax sim. It's good fun. I'm currently trying to. The game has a whole bunch of achievements as well that you can do. So you'll get little trophies and stuff for if you complete a tax sim level with just your bio gadgets and stuff, or you got to complete this level with just a pistol and stuff, or with no weapons. So that's so much fun. And I know that's going to keep me busy for a little while. And the fact that they're going to just keep adding to tax sim, which it's really good. And I think that's a good opportunity for them to have some fun with the Bond lore. Maybe they can bring back like old villains and stuff like that. That's what they did with Hitman with Le Chiffre as well, which is great. I'm just the possibilities are endless and so exciting. And also we've got another story mission as well with Lenny Kravitz coming up on later on in the DLC. So going back to the story for a minute, I just I really enjoyed what they did with Lenny Kravitz's character, because it is kind of like what I love about the spy genre. It's not always black and white. He's a villain, but for the sake for this current mission, he's going to be useful to us. So he's an ally, and he ends up saving us and stuff as well. I really enjoy stuff like that. So the fact that he's coming back is like, oh, what's he going to be this time? Are we going to be helping him? Is he going to be helping us, or do we have to take him down? It's kind of like Valentin Zukovsky in a bit. He's kind of technically he's a villain, but for the sake of this story, it's not as black and white as that, and he's going to help us out.
The kind of rogue ally I quite like as well.
Yes.
And that actually kind of brings up a cool point, because he's not a villain, but he's almost say a bad guy, but he's not also.
Mhm.
What did you actually
It's-
think of the villains in the story? Because like you think of Bond, or I think if the kind of average person on the street thought of Bond, villains are like a big thing that comes up. You have like really iconic ones and iconic henchmen and stuff. And this game, you know, it almost kind of tries to lean on that. The two henchmen, you have the twins, which is very Mishka and Grishka-esque. You have kind of the Damien, and I can't fully remember the name of the dad's name. But you have those kind of two as kind of your main villains of the piece. How did you find their stories played out? Because I will say personally, I thought it was kind of the weakest aspect of the game. I didn't really care about what they wanted to do, and I think I was kind of I liked the older guy more. The son, I didn't really care for, and when he kind of started to become this kind of super soldier thing, I wasn't really having any of it. It wasn't my forte. So what did you find like how did you find the villains? Sean, I'll go to you because again, you're coming at this from maybe from more of the movie side, less of a gamer side. How did you find them as villains?
Hey, I thought it was a great touch that the villains were twins. To be honest with you, I just loved that because you were like, again, I just Octopussy straight away. I you know what, I found it interesting. I liked the sort of touch with the son, and sort of the being sort of, I would say, villain in terms of. I did find it slightly strange that we thought would kill them. And we could go on, and he came back later on again, as you say, like more like a superhuman. But I honestly I had no issue with him at all, Michael. I just thought it fed into the story more because ultimately it was the father who was sort of using the whole computer system to try and change everything. So I didn't mind it. I have to say, I didn't mind it at all.
That puts me in my place about not liking the villains too much. What other like aspects of the game that we haven't really mentioned? Is there anything anyone wants to bring up in general?
I've got. No, go on, Rory.
Wait, now we'll leave Rory speak. He got in there just slightly before you did.
I thought the variety of vehicles was quite interesting as well. I thought the driving sequences were enjoyable. I thought this because we also did a speedboat and then you did the truck and then obviously the Aston Martin. Is it Valhalla? I can't remember the Valkyrie. I'm thinking about Valkyrie for a second. The Valkyrie towards the end when you're in the Q lab. I thought that was just something. That was probably one of my favourite missions as well. I didn't quite expect the car scene in that moment, but it was great. So just variety, and I think that's what these guys are really good at. Nothing sort of felt similar. Even towards the end, you were doing things you hadn't done previously in the game, which just keeps things really interesting.
What about you, David? What were your observations? What did you want to talk about?
What Rory was talking about there with the vehicles and stuff like that, I think it's like I think they did a really good job with like it wasn't like all cutscenes, and the cutscenes when they're there, they're like really well directed and stuff like that. But the game does like a really good job of like immersing you into something. So when you start a mission, you're like driving to the mission, and you're having dialogue with the person who's with you and stuff as well. And there's so many other games that could have just started with you at the place, and then you turn around. It's like, oh, there's my car that I arrived in. But the fact, and it adds like a lot of immersion to it as well. You can actually arrive to the location on. That's what I love about that Vietnam mission as well. You arrive on boats and stuff, and it doesn't need to be there, but it does add like a real great sense of immersion to it as well. And going back to the villains as well, I thought they did a really good job in the marketing because the villains weren't there at all, and you were kind of like guessing throughout like who you could trust as well. Like Lenny James's Greenway, what an outstanding character! What a great performance. Yeah. I was just all the way through. I was like, he hates us. Is he going to be a villain? Is he's got some chip on his shoulder? And it's a real testament to how sophisticated the writing is. It's not that black and white, and it's a lot more complicated than that. And when he eventually dies, it's a really genuinely emotional moment, and it's really well written. and there's not many moments in the Bond series that have that. I think when an ally dies, it's very matter of fact. Death is a part of Bond's job. So, but the fact that this one really got me, and it really, I shed a little tear. I'm not ashamed to admit. It was a very beautiful moment. It's just a phenomenal performance by Lenny James as well. I've got a bunch of notes of just little things. If the floor is open,
floor is open. Absolutely, work away.
Are we happy? There's Does anyone have an explanation how Bond survives the beginning? Like the transition from the opening pre-titles to the titles is amazing. But you see him like be engulfed in the flames, and then the titles begin, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see how they explain how he survived that. And then they don't, and it's like, okay, he's all right, I suppose.
I feel like that's subtly the first thing I thought of when I saw that was like that might have been like a little diss from IOI being like, there's this massive explosion where Bond's in the middle of it and he survives. It's just a little like dig at the end of No Time to Die where he gets blown up at the end. And they're like, yeah, he can survive it. It's fine. You don't need an explanation.
It is very similar, yeah.
No, yeah, go on. More. You've got notes. Want to hear them?
Go on. The final mission. If we're going deep into spoilers, how much do you know of Paul? You're silent.
Sorry, I muted myself there. Yeah, I know basically all of them.
Okay.
So
you're happy with a steam?
I'm on here accepting spoilers. Yeah. But I like what you said about the death thing is a really good one actually, because there's a line in it actually where he says something like, "We just put 3 people in the ground," and I think it's Moneypenny says, "Doesn't give you the right to stop living," or something like. It's very matter of fact and very kind of blunt, and in a particularly cool way. I think they do that very, very nicely in the film as well, or in the game. Yeah.
Oh, and the dialogue's brilliant. There's like, as Bond fans, we all enjoy the one-liners, but sometimes, admittedly, it is ironic that we go like, haha, that's very cheesy, very good. But there's like so many moments that actually had me laugh out loud. And with when Greenway's dying, we have he's like, "Oh, I don't know why you've got heart, Bond. I don't know why I didn't see it before." And he goes, "Oh, it's because you're a miserable bastard." And it's like, actually really made me laugh. It's great.
That's good.
And there's a bit when he kicks a door down, and then there's at the other side of the door, there's a whole bunch of people at the party at the museum, and they're like looking over, and he's like, "Oh, museum door inspector, this one didn't pass." And it's like, oh, it's so funny. Yeah, but the last level, that took me by surprise, because I was like trying to plow through this game as quickly as I could so I could just be in the conversation about it and not having to avoid spoilers and stuff. And I remember like the villain's base, I was like, okay, this is the last level. I'm going to stay up. I'm working in the morning, but I'm going to stay up and try and get to the end of it. And then it just kept going. And then there was that mission at MI6 and stuff. I was like, I can't go to bed. This is too exciting. It's just like, so I was very bleary-eyed the next morning. But like that whole section in Q Lab is absolutely brilliant. As soon as I saw Q evade the terrorists by lying on the sofa, and the sofa swallows him up.
Yeah,
like the living. I was like, I was like,
so good.
I was like squealing like a little schoolgirl. It was perfect. And that was one thing I actually had to retry the level, because I was going into Q Lab and I was treating it like a traditional shooter. I was like, I'm just going through and trying to pop off all the bad guys, and then I died and went back to the beginning of that bit, and then I realized that you can actually use your Q watch to activate all the gadgets in Q Lab. And I was really embarrassed that I didn't figure that out the first time, and I was like, oh, that's genius. That is so fun. Yeah. And the fact that the Valhalla gets its moment to shine is great, because I remember for the pre-release for No Time to Die, people were just going, "Oh, the Aston Martin Valhalla, the Valhalla," and then there was actually I don't know if I'm misremembering this, but I do clearly remember there was shots of the Aston Martin Valhalla and Aviemore in Scotland for the Norway sequence. So I was like, interesting. But then but then in the finished film, you just see it in the background for one scene, and I was like, okay, that's the Valhalla then. So when this game starts to talk about the Valhalla again, I'm like, okay, here we go. They're talking about the Valhalla, and then
And that's
when
one of the
we finally get to it, it's like, oh, it's so good.
that's one of the things they're doing post-launch as well. It's like there's going to be a tac sim challenge with the Valhalla, and you get to actually drive it around with the guns. So that looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. We've already gone an hour, lads. This is incredible. One thing I do want to kind of get onto is the future of it, because there was kind of a bit that came out that because the game went into development before Amazon acquired the rights to Bond, essentially they kind of just let IO have the free reign, do what you want, lads. But I think it has come out since that whatever the next game is going to be, Amazon are going to kind of put their fingers in the pie of that, in a way they probably didn't do previously. So at the end of the game, obviously it says James Bond will return. I love seeing that. What expectations have you for the next game? And is there anything that you think they could improve on, or is there anything you'd like to see out of the next game that you thought, geez, man, if they do another one of these, I'd like more of this, or I'd like them to try this or something? Rory, what about you? Like, what the future of it, what would you like to see from the next Bond game?
I really hope we just get more of the same and they don't, want change. And I think because it's been so successful, I think you'd be insane to sort of steer away from what they've done, because I think it's just been so well received. Just more of the same. And maybe, I don't know why. I have a feeling they're going to do a trilogy. Did they ever say that, or am I made that up?
They did say that at the beginning of development when it was first announced. Yeah, which I hope they stick to that plan.
Yeah, and I think that would be great. I think just be confident with it, change it up. I just think they know exactly what they're doing. I haven't really got any advice. I thought it was so well done.
Does the long development period mean that it'll be a long period between this one and the sequel, as it were? Or is it a case where, much of the development work has basically, set a foundation that they can work a little bit more quickly from? Because it was like, what, 6 years or more that they were working on this? I mean, if they keep going that, like, the actors won't stay in the roles if they have to wait around that long, presumably.
I think you'd be kind of looking at about every 3 years, maybe, is my guess. Because they do kind of like, once you have the assets down and all that and the engine's running and stuff, because I'd say a lot of the development was just trying to get the engine of the game running, because they use their own one. So with video games are run on what's called engines. A lot of them use kind of like open source ones. So you have like Unreal Engine is the name of one of like the most common ones. But some studios use their own in-house ones. So IO essentially built the game from the ground up through that engine. So you can imagine if they do the new game, they have a lot of that kind of footwork done already, and that might help them kind of in the future maybe quicken up the process. But video games are weird like that. Video games, there are certain ones. I remember they announced the Wolverine game, which is coming out for the PS5 in September. And they announced that years ago. And I remember it was like a literal one cutscene of Logan in a bar. And then all of a sudden they're like, cool, it's releasing this September. And it was like a few months ago. And then they start ramping up all the kind of coverage of it and all the marketing and stuff. So with video games, a lot of the time it's like they'll announce it, you won't hear anything for ages about it. And then once they know the release date, they're kind of like, cool, it'll release in 6 months. Have fun.
It's really hard to tell because I'm not an expert in the development of games, and it's but they take so long to make nowadays. But that being said, I think they clearly have an idea of where they want to go, because the story does end on as some sort of a cliffhanger. So I'm guessing they've kind of thought about the path ahead and what they want to do. Because when the last series of Hitman games was a trilogy, and I think they came out like 2 or 3 years apart. Is that right? Yeah. So it wasn't that long between installments. So hopefully, if they've got a trajectory of what they want to do, it shouldn't be that long. But what was going to say? Slipped my mind. Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, have you any kind of wishes of like what would you like to see in the next game? Is there anything different, or do you think literally just keep it the same, just maybe a few more kind of natural developments, and then we'll go from there?
Interesting to see. I'm just curious to see where the story goes from here. Hopefully they've got a plan. I remember it was like the beginning of the Daniel Craig era. The Casino Royale ended with like, okay, this story's finished, but there's all these possibilities of where it can go. So it's kind of exciting to get that back again. But there was one of the things that kind of disappointed me a bit with the conclusion of the game. Is Moneypenny okay? There's like she gets like stabbed at one point, and then she's like bleeding out, and then Q's like, I'll look after her, and then you go along, and then the game finishes. And then I haven't heard anyone else talk about this. I remember that was like my first thought when the game finished. I was like, what? Is she okay? I need an answer.
I think what you don't know is that they're going to open the next game like For Your Eyes Only, and Bond's going to go over to Moneypenny's grave and throw flowers on.
I hope not. But it was just quite puzzling considering how sophisticated the writing and the storytelling has been. It just feels odd not to wrap up that. Not answer that question at the end. All you needed was just to like, oh, she'll be okay. Or yeah, I just find that a little odd. But then she is introducing. She did do the briefing for the Lenny Kravitz DLC, so I'm guessing she's okay.
She's fine. Look, I'm not going to lose sleep over Moneypenny being stabbed.
I will.
No offense to her, but I think you have. Sean, what about you? Is there anything out of the game that you'd like to see more of, or anything you'd like to see happen?
Yeah, here it was similar to the lads. It's more of the same, please. And I would love to say Amazon just stay out and let the guys do what they're doing, because like the game they've developed and the game they produced is amazing. And I definitely, the way the game ends, like absolutely going, oh, I can't wait for the next game here. What's going to happen? What way is it going to go? And I would sort of the timeline of every 2 to 3 years will hopefully work in well if they're always releasing like DLCs or the tax sim stuff. So yeah, more of the same, but probably a bit more maybe like driving or different sort of elements of driving, sort of cars or trucks or even tanks or something like that. Just
something I think that would be quite fun would be like to get like a skiing sequence or something.
Yeah.
But surely they can do like a thing where you're up on a mountain, you're skiing down, and you can use the gun, and I think that would be quite fun. I'd like to see them take more elements out of the Bond movies and kind of introduce them over the course of the few games. So like skiing could be one thing, or I'd like to see them even like in a helicopter or something where you can like fight in the air, and like same with kind of those sequences where with the cars they're quite on rails, especially with the bin lorry and with the kind of big quarry vehicle thing.
Truck.
They were quite on rails, so basically you just had to push a button forward and the game did it for you in one sense. But I think it'd be kind of cool, like go up in a helicopter and be able to shoot people from there, or kind of expand on those type of sequences. I think would be quite fun, and like obviously they'll introduce new gadgets and stuff. So I think that would be quite fun. And I also think one thing I wouldn't mind being able to do is, and it maybe goes against slightly what Rory says, is maybe introducing more of those Hitman elements of, like you could maybe change your outfit, or you can, when you take someone down, you can kind of move them to a different area, and it kind of gives you more agency that way to kind of maybe play the game your own way, rather than it being kind of completely linear. But again, like it's one of those things, if they just continued on the same way as they did this last one and just made like a banging story again, I think we're all quite happy.
Yeah.
I'm sure they will. And I think something that got blown out of proportion a bit, which tends to happen on the internet, the fact that Amazon said that it'll kind of all be under our umbrella going forward.
Yeah.
I think that just means they're going to be publishing the games, and I think IOI has been like self-publishing as well. So I think that can only be a good thing if they're going to be backing that project with the Amazon $bucks. Yeah, and I think the game's done a really good job of like incorporating those Bond elements, like driving and the boats and stuff, and the action, without like stealing too much from the films. I think there was like previous games like Nightfire had like a car that went underwater, and that's incredible, but it's clearly just something from a film that they moved into a game, which is great in its own way, but the game has the confidence to like do its own set pieces. I think the only one that comes close is the free falling is very, very similar to Moonraker, but it does have its own identity on it as well.
But they stole the yellow Aston Martin from the Persuaders, which I think
That's cool.
perfect.
Yeah,
Go for it.
those little moments are great. It's not like the DB5 recycle. We all love the DB5
Yeah.
as Bond fans, but it is cool that
enough
they're
already.
not relying on that crutch again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and the references are done like so tastefully as well.
Yeah,
Just like
yeah.
there's lots of little things that if you're not a Bond fan, it'll go over your head, and you'll still enjoy the game. But if you're a
Yeah.
Bond fan and you're just like, oh, they're speaking to me, this is great.
Yeah.
There's like
Easter
little,
eggs
you
are like
you
a
pick
big
up a piece of
thing.
paper and it's like signed by director Hamilton and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's like a
Yeah.
flyer for like Cara Milovi in concert or
Yes.
something. I was like,
Yeah, you have
oh,
those. You have
That's
those
brilliant.
like Bond's Trilby
Yeah.
hat you can collect and a few different things
Yeah.
and stuff. They're all
Brilliant.
really cool. I suppose like wrap it up. Is there anything anyone wants to get off their chest that they really wanted to talk
I
about
thought
with the
the gun
game?
barrel-
Well, Rory definitely wants to get his shirt off because we forced him to close his window.
So hot, can you tell?
take it off, Rory.
I thought the gun barrel at the end, that did make me excited for the future. It felt very, and the new theme, what David Arnold did, I thought was really good. And I thought the free falling scene as well really reminded me of Everything or Nothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the trophy list as well. There was a lot of nods on there if you're playing
Trophy
the
list
PlayStation
is
version.
very
The first one is Icebreaker, and I was like, okay, is that just because it broke the ice? And I was like, and then the more that come along is like, wow, they're doing like obscure continuation novels.
Yeah.
and references. That's like it's
Brilliant.
incredible.
I
And
think I'd love to
the
see the next one,
yeah.
split screen.
yes,
Split screen would be that'd be local multiplayer as well.
Yeah.
I remember.
I want to be able
all that.
to fight you guys on multiplayer. That'd be great.
On cable
That would be
cars.
fun, yeah.
That'd be quite cool. Yeah.
I'd be like, hey guys, wait for me, I'm coming.
Everyone ganging
Just-
up on Paul because we know he's the worst.
Yeah,
at the
just
game.
kicking dirt in my face. Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time.
Boost to KD. What about you,
Just
Sean? Is there
very
anything-
briefly,
anything you
very
wanna bring up?
briefly, I think we should, well, I definitely give a shout out to Patrick Gibson and his portrayal as Bond. I thought he was brilliant in the role. Excellent. Just sort of just made it his own. And it's mad when you see the computer game and then you see him in real life in person. It's just the exact same. The way they do it is so, so good.
Yeah.
And that
And
also,
I
quick
don't
shout out.
know. Sorry, go on, Sean.
Sorry. No. Go ahead, David. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think Rory's the youngest one here, but I'm sure all of us had. No, Michael's the youngest one here. Sorry.
I would say so.
I think your face. I'm like, all right, sorry.
Michael's only 7.
I'm only 7, yeah.
But the rest of us, Michael, we've all kind of had like midlife crises playing this game, going like, this is like the first time that Bond's been younger than me, and I don't know how to feel. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel about this. This is
Actually,
weird.
funny enough,
And-
I'm the same age as him in this.
There we go.
We're
are
both
you?
we're both 26. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So like,
Oh,
but then I was surprised how I got over that very quickly. It was like, yeah, he's brilliant. He's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
He's very physical as well, isn't he? Which I think is great. He brings a physicality to that part. The way I
Yeah,
mean,
and
it has to be, 'cause it's all about movement. And I mean, you're an actor, David. You know how
Yeah,
difficult
well,
that must be.
what I was really impressed with the it's really hard to do those one-liners and do that like to like pull off that charm and stuff without coming across as like cheesy or pastiche or whatever, but he does it like so convincingly, and I don't think
Mm.
people underestimate how hard that is to do. It's he's absolutely brilliant.
That's great.
Absolutely, and I
that's a
think-
really good observation.
I think after an hour 15, we might wrap it up there. Paul, do you want to take it away with the outro?
Well, just want to thank everyone very much for coming on and doing this. I mean, these are some of my favorite guys. Anyway, to have you on and really enriching our First Light review is a real pleasure. It's lovely to catch up, and especially as we are spanning a number of time zones. So it's late here in Switzerland. It's very early in Australia. So thank you guys. It's great to see you all again. please, maybe if we would keep this open, and we might come back and do a follow up in a few months or years or something like this. If we do a retrospective on some of the other games, maybe we might. We'd love to have you guys back to do that as well if you're interested.
Yeah, the Bond
Any
games need a
excuse
lot
for a
more
bit of a
love.
chin wag. The Bond game people are what?
Can we
Sorry.
talk about
The
007
Bond games
versus
need a lot more love
PlayStation?
as well.
Yes. Yes.
Rory,
think
you
it's-
were going to say something
Go on.
there quickly. Go on.
I was just going to say, can we talk about 007 Racing on PlayStation 1?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get 007 Racing in.
I'm on for all of that. But in the meantime, we are going to say thank you very much for joining us. And from James Bond Club Ireland, we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right.
Right.